gone is the illicit thrill of smoking. Now they get to be mean to each other on social media. If you've not yet subscribed, we would love to have you come and hang out with us all the time for news and reviews. And we see things like Pinocchio, so you don't have to.
But I want to be real.
Why on earth would you want to be real when you can be famous?
Yes, the first of two Pinocchios we're getting this year from major auteurs. This is the Robert Zemeckis one that premiered on Disney Plus for Disney Plus Day, and bypassing theaters and wondering why, watch it and you'll learn. So yeah, this is another misguided attempt to do a live action version of an animated Disney classic. I say live action in quotes because of course a great deal of this movie is CG, not just the lead character of Pinocchio, who is voiced by young actor Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, but also Jiminy Cricket, voiced in an off-putting Southern accent by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
It's weird.
The cat, the fish, the fox, like pretty much almost all of this is a mass of ones and zeros, except for Tom Hanks as Geppetto.
Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight.
He's doing an accent. He's leaning into that accent.
He's doing an accent. It's a different accent than the one in Elvis, but it's still like, okay. Yeah, this movie is just, it seems like a bad idea from so many angles. The screenplay is by Zemeckis and Chris Weitz, and for a story that is about a wooden boy who has to learn to develop a conscience to make the right decisions in order to become real, his sense of agency seems to be stripped away at every turn. Every time Pinocchio finds himself either getting seduced into show business or not going to school or going to Pleasure Island, he doesn't ever seem to have much of a choice in it. It's always kind of like these adults who are manipulating the situation, kind of forcing the issue. So there, you never get a sense that he's choosing right or wrong. He's just sort of being swept up in the tide. And I think that undercuts the narrative strength of this story. And then you have new songs by Glenn Ballard that are unremarkable. Though Glenn Ballard and Alan Silvestri. You have Alan Silvestri doing the Alan Silvestri score you have heard a million times at this point.
It swells and all the feel-good moments.
Yeah. These weird moments of like winky wink inside jokes from like a Chris Pine reference to Geppetto's cuckoo clocks that reenact various Disney moments, including Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which Zemeckis directed, and which was a groundbreaking example of integrating animation and live action people in the same frame. And it looks better in Roger Rabbit than it does most of the time in Pinocchio, frankly. And that was 34 years ago. Yeah, this is kind of a disaster.
Yes, I wrote my review for Ebert that it's sort of like the titular puppet. It occupies this existential purgatory because it's not really animated and it's not really live action and it's not really true to its roots completely, but it's also not all the way newfangled and, you know, cutesy and modern, but it wants to have it both ways all the time and never really achieves any kind of gelled vibe, either narratively or aesthetically. I will admit that I laughed at the Chris Pine joke. The Keegan-Michael Key's performance in general is the highlight for me here because he brings like a wild energy and a danger that is missing everywhere else.
Yeah,
they're trying to play it so safe by mixing everything together to please everybody at once.
Absolutely. It is very much trying to have its cake and eat it too. But yeah, I think he brings an energy. Like I remember thinking about this with Jingle Jangle, where he has that big boisterous musical number that's so great. He brings an energy to this the way that like old school, almost sort of vaudeville era comedians brought to earlier Disney movies, like Phil Harris in The Jungle Book, for instance. You know, like there's a big sort of exuberant, you know, aiming for the back fences that works and that he knows how to control, but also like really deliver. And I think so much of this other movie, you're right, is so kind of namby-pamby about wanting to be true to the old thing, but also wanting to be hip and contemporary and wanting to, as I said on Facebook last night, I said ugh 3 times in the first 12 minutes. So I knew I was in for rough going.
Oh, the thing with the cuckoo clocks, like I rolled my eyes so far back into my head, and I'm sure I also audibly said, ugh. It's so shameless. And yet you mentioned Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and that is an amalgamation of all these different kinds of cartoon characters, but it is germane, hello, to the story that they're telling, and they're integrated in a smart and clever way. Here it's like, hey, here's other Disney stuff, haha, look how cute we are. The kid who plays Pinocchio, I think he must have been directed to really, really amp up the cutesy, earnest sincerity of it, because he's really up here with everything. I mean, which sort of matches Hanks, who's just super folksy as Geppetto, and it's all
whatever
so cloying.
JGL is doing.
It is all so cloying.
Yeah.
And eventually, once they get into the whale, like it's totally divorced from any sense of any kind of live action. It's just like floaty colors.
Absolutely. And it's not even a whale. Like,
it's not.
Like, and I'll tell you, Monster of the Whale, the animated version, is my first memory of having the shit scared out of me in a movie theater. I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I was just like, I lost it. I was so freaked out by that. And this movie, it's like, Monstro can't be a whale because Zemeckis can't do anything if he can overdo it. Now it's like a kaiju. Like, why? Why does it need to be that? It just,
there's other stuff going on.
There's no good reason for this. Also, the kids on Pleasure Island should be allowed to smoke.
I was going to say, gone is the illicit thrill of smoking. Now they get to be mean to each other on social media, which feels like, again, another wedged in contemporary reference to try to make this relatable to kids today.
Yeah, when Keegan-Michael Key says, like, you could be an influencer, I'm like, why?
Yes. I wish I had thought at this point, but our friend Bibbs did. And that is, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but the thing with the nose growing totally undermines the point of the message of why his nose grows.
True.
I wish I had thought of that, because it's meant to be a cautionary tale, right? About the dangers of lying and not going to school and, messing around and being a delinquent. And now the thing with the nose ends up helping him. I wish I thought of that. It's a really smart observation.
Yeah. Again, I think they decide they want to change things in this story, but they don't change any of them for the better. And a lot of times they're sort of undoing the point of why it's there in the first place.
I would have liked more Cynthia Erivo as a blue fairy.
I think her scene is great. I don't know that more of it would have necessarily been better, but she is one of the better things in the movie. Her casting, I think she gets the right balance between sort of like knowing humor and kind of committing to the actual story that the rest of the movie is desperately chasing. And
her casting alone is a good example of like a smart way to contemporize this material.
Absolutely. Yes.
And she's just a badass in general. So I always want more of her. So this is not good.
No.
And I don't think it would have been good on a screen. Like, it would be worse. I think the fact that the CGI often looks crappy would have been more glaring on a bigger screen than you have in your living room.
Yeah. This is like, look, the original animated Pinocchio is on Disney Plus. Just watch that. It's like, whatever your issues with it, and there are some to be had, like, it's a lot better. The songs that this movie redoes doesn't do them any better than they did them the first time. It's just stick with that. We'll see what Guillermo del Toro does with this in December. I mean, as somebody as Elizabeth Weissman pointed out in her review for the Wrap, like, there have been like 65 adaptations at this point. Is there anything new to plumb here? I don't know. Maybe he can. Yeah,
and then there was a couple of different Roberto Benigni ones.
Yes, he made one where he played Pinocchio, and then he played Geppetto again later. It's like, dude, let it go.
Anyway, I'm saying 3.
I said 3.
Good.
No, but do not bother. I weep for Robert Zemeckis, because where is the guy who made I Want to Hold Your Hand and Romancing the Stone and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Used Cars and Back to the Future? Where is that guy? What happened?